Hello, I'm making a video about heliconia care during the winter, what to put it in, what not to put it in to avoid root rot. Um, okay, so over here we can see a healthy heliconia. And actually, I was concerned about this one because when I got it, obviously it was greener and had more, water, and it just looked like a plant that had been cut. But this drying out is actually very natural. And actually, I um, tossed it last night when I was checking this, but there was a little um, rhizome coming up out of the soil that was right here when I first got the plant, and then over the winter time it dried out. So I was really concerned that this plant had actually died. Um, but I'm going to show you, first of all, what I put it in. So I have this is a plastic terracotta pot, and it has some nice drainage holes on the bottom. So the thing about heliconias that I've learned so far is that they like to have moisture, they like humidity, um, but there can actually be too much for any plant, of course, and that's the case with heliconia. Now I'm going to show you because this plant, I think I bought it in October, um, late October, early November, and so it's been here for a few months. It's now February, and it hasn't really been showing signs of life. So I was feeling adventurous last night, and I just actually pulled it out of the soil. So I'm just gonna do this one more time to show this beautiful healthy rhizome here. There's actually a part here, this darker part, I don't know if you can see, that looks like some root rot, but this is hard. This is hard right here. This part was probably damaged by water, but this part right here is hard. And then we have a very, very lovely, healthy white rhizome there, and then you can see some little, I'm not sure if those are going to develop into rhizomes or if they're just a root system. They may just be a root system for the rhizome, but anyways, this is a very healthy looking plant from what I can tell. It's got some roots that are alive, and hopefully you can see they're still kind of on the light side. One tip for testing if roots are still viable or not is to give them just a gentle squeeze. And so these all have elasticity in them. They're not spongy or squishy. So I'm going to repot that and then let it rest and not pull it up anymore. But I just wanted you guys to see that even though it can look like this, it's still quite alive. And my recommendation is just to water it very sparingly during the winter time, because that's when it's having less growth and it doesn't need as much water, and that's when it's more prone to root rot. I did also use this kind of mulch potting soil that I got from a local nursery, so it's really good at holding in water and moisture, so you really don't need to water it that much. Also, the instructions I got when I ordered my heliconia were that they like to be in the shade. So I have a little palm tree here and some other plants, bromeliads, and this little guy right here, that these like to have less sun than other plants. So this is kind of a shady corner of my garden, and then this palm also gives a little extra shade. So I had the heliconia sitting right here, and here. So we saw one. What about the other one? So that one's a different story. This is what happens if the plant gets root rot. So we have here, you can see it's still a little hard in some places, but like this point looks like it was trying to become a rhizome, but it's kind of squishy and just very black. Also, you can see, hopefully, where the roots were, here and here. So there were roots, but as you can see, there's no roots hanging off of this. Comparing it, you see lots of nice healthy roots off of this heliconia. There's nothing, absolutely nothing coming off of this. So I'm afraid that what happened was that it was too moist and the roots just rotted, and then it eventually led to rot of the entire plant. As you can see from where I removed the stem, if you can see on the inside, it's just kind of like mushy, real moist looking. I actually unfortunately had this problem with a desert rose. In Southern California, it's not normal to get a lot of rain, even in the winter time, which is the wetter season, but I was on a trip and my desert rose was outside, and we had unusually heavy rains, and it just got too much water and unfortunately succumbed to root rot. So it can happen even in the driest of places. So just to be really careful, to keep your eye on it, especially when it's going to rain. Like today it's supposed to storm, and this weekend's supposed to storm, so I'm going to be moving all of my plants underneath the awning. So I highly recommend that if you're in a really rainy area and you see that your plants have already been getting adequately watered and they're still moist, especially in winter, because in winter, as I mentioned, they don't do a lot of their growing, so they're not going to be mobilizing and using that water as much. So so here is the stem of the heliconia that I ripped it off to see, because I did, once I saw the state of the root ball, I did suspect rot, and it is completely rotted through and through. So unfortunately, this heliconia is not going to make it. This was a rainbow or Halloween heliconia. Has like pink with the green lines and little green fronds kind of sticking up the top. It looks more like a bird of paradise. The flowers do. This one is the lobster claw. Now this one is my favorite kind, so I'm really thankful that this one is still with us. So why does this happen? So this plant got enough water and this plant got too much. Why is that? So one thing I've been learning is not just about potting media, but also about the pots themselves and what materials hold more moisture. As I showed you, this heliconia is potted in a plastic pot. This heliconia was planted in a clay pot, terracotta pot, and as you can see, it looks like it's still retaining moisture. It's kind of darkish color. And the media inside looks relatively the same, if not even a little bit drier than the other heliconias pot. But I think that the problem is that this clay pot just retains way too much moisture. So for whatever reason, either maybe the rain or maybe I watered it too much. But I think that just the thing is to make sure that you have things that need to dry out a little bit better in plastic pots. So that is my personal recommendation. Also, you can see on the bottom there's only one drainage hole, so versus the six holes here. So for heliconias, shade, moisture, not too much moisture, making sure that you have draining media, and then a good nice pot that's going to allow it to drain. So I wish you happy planting and growing, and I hope to make another video once some of the rhizomes break the surface, and especially when I start having some flowers. So hope to see you later.